You marveled at the excellence that was Roush Racing. They were by far the best team the NASCAR Cup Series had to offer. All 5 of their full-time drivers ended up making that season's chase for the Cup, which was only 10 drivers at the time. The star-studded team included Greg Biffle, Carl Edwards, Mark Martin, Matt Kenseth, and the defending champion Kurt Busch. It looked as if nothing could stop this team for years to come, until at their peak, they decided to make a drastic decision. With a look towards the future and wanting to prepare their prospects that they had in their pipeline, they decided to open a 6 Cup team. The initiative was to get whoever was driving this car ready to replace eventual retiree Mark Martin. If anyone could pull this off, it was definitely Roush Racing, right? Well, even in their heyday, they had some failures. What followed after was one of the worst performances a Roush Racing team has ever had. This is a reminder that even the biggest teams can sometimes fall flat on their face. The infamous 6 team started out with only one driver in mind. Todd Cleaver was viewed as the future of Roush Racing. He won the team's prospect show, Racer X, back in the early 2000s, and soon after made a name for himself in the Truck Series. But even up to his first Cup Series start, he was known mostly as the guy who had that horrendous flip in ARCA. This took place way back in early 2005, before he began racing in the Truck Series full-time, but it seemed to carry over everywhere he went. He was largely inconsistent, but with a veteran crew chief like Frankie Stoddard, who had won multiple races with Jeff Burton, Roush was about to see if Todd Cleaver had what it took to take over the 6 full-time the following season. Unfortunately, the first 2 races of his career didn't help his case. Races of 41st and 43rd at both Chicagoland and Michigan became the new norm, and it was looking as if Todd Cleaver's for sure 6 Cup ride was put on hold. In an effort to salvage what was left of this team and to see what other prospects he had at his disposal, Jack Roush gave the young up-and-comer David Reagan a shot. He was in the team's pipeline for quite some time and had appeared on the show Racer X. He was viewed as an apprentice to Mark Martin in a sense. Even though there was some hope, there were also a ton of questions pertaining to his Cup debut. Up to this point, he had minimal Truck Series success as well as minimal Busch Series experience. The result was one of the worst Cup Series debuts in history. How somebody gets loose on the straightaway, I will never know. But the one thing I do know about this story thus far is that the 6th ride remains wide open. Todd Cleaver has one final chance to assert himself as the #1 guy for the job. In what would be the final 2 Cup Series starts of his career, it was now or never. But in the end, it just wasn't enough. A 32nd at Kansas and a final DNF at Charlotte officially did him in. Todd Cleaver was now out of contention for the 6th ride. In less than a week, it was made official. David Reagan would be the next guy up to replace Mark Martin. The problem is, after that decision was announced, he followed that up with one of the worst performances ever seen at Martinsville. If that performance wasn't enough, NASCAR themselves stepped in and forced the 06 team to withdraw from the following week's race at Atlanta. They had enough with his mess at Martinsville and were straight up just like, no, you're not racing this week. The end result of this whole deal was Reagan ended up going to Cup, replacing Mark Martin, winning Rookie of the Year, and ended up having a solid career. On the other hand, Todd Cleaver never recovered and never raced in the Cup Series again. The end results of the infamous 6 team are this: 6 starts, 4 DNQs, an average finish of 37th, and 3 DNFs. The team disbanded after the 2006 season and never ran again. With the 4-car limit rule we currently have in place, I'm sure it'll be quite a while before we see anything like this again. And once again, that'll do it for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Black Flags Matter. Catch you next time.